Hey Cancer, welcome to Divine Duality Tarot. My name is TJ. Today I'm going to do a general love reading for you, Cancer, to get a good idea of what's going on between you and your significant other, whoever this person may be, in your romantic life, in your relationship. So the way I do this is I'm going to draw two to represent your energy in this relationship, and then I'm going to draw two to represent your interests energy going into the relationship, and then I'm going to do two more right in the middle to get an idea of kind of the dynamic between the two. Where does your energy meet? What are the common or point of contention energy in this relationship? Biggest thing I like about the tarot in general is it's nice to have a little bit of forewarning instead of no warning at all, instead of going into it with completely blind. It's nice to see what is going on, give you some insight into your own mind, into your own energy. Every once in a while something's a little vague, and when it is, I have a second deck here for clarification. Let me tell you what I've got here. We're going to start with you, Cancer. I'm going to tell you what I got, and then we're going to clarify one, because sometimes things just don't jump out and slap you in the face and say, hey, this is what I'm trying to say. This one is, so starting it out is the Page of Wands. The Page of Wands is impulsiveness. It's, I see it, I want it, I do it. Not even, it's second thought. You might be spending money on trivial things you don't need. And it may be things that you want only in the moment. It's like a kid at a candy store. You have never asked for black licorice before in your life. And now that you see it, all of a sudden you want it. Interesting. You have impulsiveness. Impulsiveness can be good, can be bad. Impulsiveness can be things in the physical world, like candy, as I said. It could also be impulsiveness in not as good of a way, such as looking at other people, talking to other people, hopefully not doing things with other people, but, breaking that loyalty a lot of times is impulsive. We don't actively think about hurting our significant other, but if you're not in the right state of mind, if you've been burdened, if things aren't going well, sometimes it's easy to entertain the idea of indulging in something that you shouldn't. Be it other people, could be drugs, could be alcohol, things that are not good for you often happen most when it comes to impulse, when it comes to, acting out your impulses, gambling. Which has us at that Eight of Cups, which is walking away, which is moving on. It's leaving an emotion for another emotion, and it's trying to leave things behind. This looks like a classic case of not being fulfilled. You're not getting the emotional need that you think you should have. So it's causing you to think about things that you shouldn't. What are we walking away from? What is Cancer walking away from? What is Cancer walking away from? first one is the Seven of Cups, which is dreaming, which is clarity. And the Five of Cups, grief and disappointment. The honeymoon phase of a relationship. Let me try to explain it to you like this. In the honeymoon phase of a relationship, flaws are often ignored. You're blinded by the pretty lights, and what you see before you is everything that you've ever wanted. It's wonderful, it's great, nothing wrong's happening. The dream eventually ends. Eventually you wake up and you look over at the person next to you, and it's like the blinders come off. Oh, this is what this is. There's somebody who leaves their clothes all over the floor, somebody who will legitimately wait until the very last dish is dirty to clean everything and then panic about it. You know, these little things that we look past when we're in that honeymoon stage of a relationship really can hit hard if you fully indulge yourself in the dream of the honeymoon. If you go into it and you don't have very clear expectations of how things should be from the get-go, you can really find yourself disappointed. You have discovered some traits in this relationship that you don't like, and it has you disappointed. It has you the clarity has come in. You're trying to walk away and move on from that situation, and the way to cope with that is impulses. Impulses are not the best thing to use when it comes to coping. It's really not. But this person's shiny veneer has worn off, and you see what's actually there. So let's look at their energy going into it. They have the Tower. The Tower is a big change, unexpected change, the rug being pulled out from under them. I think that they realize that you have changed. They realize that they may not know exactly what's going on, but if you have done a 180 and changed your temperament, if you've went from telling them to, like every time you get off the phone, I love you, and then now it's bye, that's a big change. And that can really affect somebody's state of mind. They're going through that. And then they have the Page of Pentacles, which is manifestation. It's the ability to get things done. This is in jeopardy. They're questioning their ability, their role, their purpose in a relationship. And I'm not trying to make you sound like you're the bad guy at all. Please don't think that. But when circumstances change, and the reason why I'm saying don't think that you're the bad guy is because every single person is different. Cancer, your exact situation is not going to be the same as another Cancer sitting right next to you. You will have, because you are unique. You are your own person. You may have went into this relationship with, this person telling you that this is who I am, this is what I do, and you now have these expectations of this is how it should be. And then over time, those expectations are broken because this person was just all talk and no action. This person was just full of hot air. This person could have been lying to you for a long time about what they're doing, and then suddenly, crap, this is not what they are. But you're coping in a way that can be destructive. It really can. When people are in a rut, they turn to things that can harm them. Drug abusers, I'm not saying you're a drug abuser, but it's like the most damaging thing I can think of. People turn to things that give them a temporary state of satisfaction. That's not who you want to be, Cancer. That's not who you want to be. You want to be strong of your own will. The energy between the two is counterintuitive to most of the things that I just said on the surface. But I'm going to tell you what they mean on the surface, and then I'll get why they actually do. It all does make sense in this big full circle. Temperance. Temperance is temperance. It's balance. It's sometimes the easiest word is the hardest one to describe. Temperance is seeking balance. It's seeking understanding. It's not forcing things. And then you have the Two of Pentacles, which is balance. This is that whole expectation thing that I was talking about. You had expectations, they weren't met because there was a status quo in the relationship. You weren't forcing, they weren't forcing. Have the wheels just stopped turning? Is that what happened here? Were things going okay and then all of a sudden you wake up and I'm still at square one. Nothing has progressed in this relationship. I went into this thinking that things were going to move forward, but all I hear is screeching tires because nothing's moving. The brakes are on hard. I mean, you got the gas down, but the car's not moving. Is that what happened? Because that's what I'm seeing here. Neither side has been pushing in any meaningful way. You were expecting them to fulfill their part of the deal, and they were expecting you to fulfill a part of the deal. Are you meeting your part of the deal? Sometimes people don't work very hard if they don't feel that their partner is not working really hard. I'm not saying that's an excuse, because somebody has to work hard. Somebody has to be moving forward. That way the other person can move forward too and not be dead weight. You may find them to be dead weight right now. Maybe they find you to be dead weight too, because they don't have that balance that they feel. And think about this. If you've been putting in a lot more of the effort, okay? If you've been putting in more of the effort and you suddenly come to the realization I'm the only one working, and you slow down, that shatters that status quo, because they were used to you being the person out in front. Or if they're the one that's been out in front and they're used to you behind, and you suddenly started speeding up because you recognize your worth, that can shatter the status quo. They may be thinking, oh, I'm not good enough now. Oh, is that it? You don't trust me to, do this? There's a lot of very specific circumstances that really apply here that you're going to have to recognize yourself to really understand where you're at right now. This is the moment when the needle is being pressed against the balloon. It hasn't popped, but it's right there. They're seeing big change. You're seeing reality. If things continue as is, or you kind of lower your expectations of this person, you slow down, whatever it is that you're doing, what happens if it continues on that way? What's the most likely outcome if it continues as is? Nothing has changed. If nothing has changed, a new status quo will form. because you have the Hierophant. The Hierophant is traditions, it's conformity. This is you settling into a new state of mind, a new settle, a new state of circumstances, and that leads to the Ten of Cups, which is fulfillment. Now, fulfillment in the emotional sense is you will be fulfilled because you will understand that that is the best that's going to happen. Does that make sense? Cancer, it's if fulfillment right now is here because your expectations are here, and you lower the expectations to here, and you lower the fulfillment to here, then your expectations are fulfilled. You are where you're at. You're not happier than you should be, but you're not sadder than you should be. You're just there. It's complacency. And you will eventually grow to be content with that. It will be as is. That is now the status quo. You understand who that person is. You understand who you are. That's where we're at. That's where you'll be in the future. Is nowhere better, nowhere worse, but it's just, you will settle. Things will dull down because this is now what it is. A new, most likely, very much lower status quo. What happens if Cancer makes a move, addresses the issues that is bothering them, gets rid of the impulsiveness, and puts that pedal down? What happens? What is the most likely outcome for Cancer doing something about this? Let's see what we get. Let's see what we get. Cancer pushes it forward. This is such a frustrating spread. If you push forward, first one is the Devil, an unhealthy relationship. Addiction, it's changing in a bad way. So what this is if you push, they're going to take it the wrong way. They're going to think that, oh, I'm not good enough, and probably push back. And now we have contention. Now we have two people butting heads, and the balance is starting to become bad. You may, and it's subconscious, you may become controlling because you don't think that they know what to do. Or they may become controlling because they don't think you know what to do. And those problems just compound each other until eventually you get to a point of, it's over. It has a Chariot. This is the big one, Chariot. So, if you really push to make a big change, you will see progress. You will. You will see things moving together. The Chariot, your relationship, is still moving. Here's the problem. The ones pulling the Chariot aren't going exactly in the right direction. They are not going in the exact same direction. They're going a little bit apart. As the relationship continues, the two are pulling apart. The Chariot's still moving, it's slowing down, and eventually, what happens when you move so far apart that you're now going completely different directions? The Chariot stops. That's the end. This relationship is frustrating because you're screwed if you do, you're screwed if you don't. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You are in a sticky, tricky, sucky situation right here in March. Personally, knowing that the outcome could be the absolute worst of all worsts, that kind of narrows down the decision-making process, at least for me. Cancer, if I were you, lower your expectations, understand that this is probably the norm, and play the waiting game. I'm not saying don't do anything at all. There are things that you do have to stand your ground on. I'm not saying lower your expectations of yourself, but if there are things that they said they would do that they're not, really think about it this way. Is it actually damaging the relationship itself? Are they leaving, the toilet seat up, and that just makes you so mad? Is it worth damaging the whole relationship over, though? That is the most petty, basic thing I can think of that isn't really digging in deep to a very specific relationship. But something that, yes, they should not be leaving the toilet seat up, but they do. Is that worth fighting for? Is that actually something that should be argued over? Think about those things. Think about, is it worth the argument? Because this isn't always a bad thing. If a status quo is reached that is sensible, where the understanding between the two of you is realistic, they're not up on a pedestal anymore, you're not up on a pedestal anymore, you just know what the other person is and they know what you are, at least you're on stable ground. At least you know what is going on. You know where the surface is. You're not floating in the wind anymore. You have steady ground. You know where the relationship is. And you'll have fulfillment of knowing that you have that steady, that anchor back home, or however your situation is personally. You'll be in a good place. It's not the best place, but you'll be in a good place, an okay place. Once you're in that okay place, it's possible to build things up from there. That's that whole thing about how they do it in the military, that they break you first, going through boot camp. They break you. They get rid of your personality, as it is when you went in. And once they get to the point where it's a zero sum, you're not going to get worse, but you're not going to get better as is, then they build you up. They make you better than what you were. Consider taking that route. Consider getting things to where they're stable. And then once you're there, get on board with your interest, and then hit the gas pedal. Build both of you up. Because we all have flaws. I have flaws, you have flaws, everybody has flaws. Sometimes it takes being brought back down to earth to recognize what our flaws are. Sometimes our flaws outweigh the other person's flaws. It does happen. Going straight for it and immediately attacking the issue could bring out your flaws that you didn't realize that you had, or that you don't have, but develop them as a response to them attacking back. You could develop a false sense of self-importance that outweighs the relationship, where it's no longer a 50-50, where it becomes a 90-10, where you start disregarding what they say altogether. Or you may wake up one day realizing that, oh my goodness, my voice isn't even heard. I said not to buy that car, but they just went and bought it because they don't care what you say anymore. They become, or what if they become overconfident and start becoming narcissistic? And now you really don't matter. They're looking for attention in all the wrong places. But this is what's going to screw you over if you're not careful. Impulsiveness. If you don't rein that in, you could become the problem. You, Cancer, could become the problem in the relationship. Don't be the problem. Be the solution. Don't let them be the problem. Be the solution for that too. This may be one of those situations where you got to put your foot down and just brace yourself for the crap. Because it's coming. It's here. You know it. You're living through it. But if you get to a better status quo that makes more sense for your relationship, I think you can make things work. And then you can make them better. Because if you don't, you might as well just consider it over. You might as well just stick a fork in it. It's done. This is going to take some work if you want it to work. This really is. But, my friend, Cancer, everything's work. Relationships are work. Work is work. Everything's work. That's part of our crappy human condition. If things were easy, then things would be easy. But we know that's too much to ask. So with that, Cancer, stay strong. Really plan your moves. Think about, solve yourself first. Is what you're doing damaging more than what they're doing? Is what they're doing damaging more than what you're doing? Is what you're doing enabling them? Or could, down the road, it make things even worse? If they've been sleeping around, if they've been impulsive and sleeping around, and you find out later, that's even worse. So whatever you're doing, take a step back from yourself. Is what you're doing going to benefit this relationship? Because if it's not, then stop. Is what they're doing going to benefit the relationship? If they're not, then maybe it's time for you to start reconsidering your priorities in the relationship. You don't want to live in pain. You don't want to live in a bad place. But at the same time, don't neglect your own happiness either. Don't neglect their happiness either. Don't neglect the relationship. Just be careful. Just be careful and don't get yourself hurt. That's my biggest worry, Cancer, is that you're going to make a choice out of impulse and you're going to really regret it later. Especially because you may resent them for that choice. It may turn into a, well, you pushed me to do this. And that's destructive too. Don't let them push you to do things that you know you shouldn't do, because then they are the bad guy. Don't be impulsive and start fights over stupid stuff. Or be impulsive and be proactive and get rid of issues before they even occur. But whatever you do, pushing them isn't going to lead you anywhere but right into that toilet. We've been talking about toilets a lot. But it's going to go straight into that. Cancer, I feel like this was more hard on you than anybody else. I apologize, but I would rather you hear it straight. I would rather you hear the truth of what I see here so that you can make decisions. Sometimes we need checked. It happens. This person may be an absolute, complete, and utter trash garbage butthole. But if you're doing things that make it worse, then you have validated this behavior that they have. So really think about your situation. Think about what you've been doing and make good, informed choices. And understand that the status quo, while it may not be all sunshine and rainbows, the status quo may also not be thunderstorms and lightning everywhere. So, with that said, Cancer, I really do appreciate you watching the video, hearing everything that I had to say with the messaging here. And I truly do wish you the best. Be smart, be safe, be safe. Watch your back, watch yourself, and just take care of yourself, okay? I'll see you next time.